Did you change the music?
I don't think I did. It's just a countdown.
Oh man, I love it. It's like
we need an intro, but anyway,
all right, well, we'll work on that.
Taylor Swift is not returning my messages for some reason, but anyway, well,
I thought you were in, baby. I thought you were in Nashville.
Welcome to Family Matters. We talk about families, recovery, messy chaos, the reality of addiction. Anyway, basically all the questions families are too scared to ask or are Googling at 2 a.m. I see come in. I notice when it's never during the day, but anywhere, families, if you feel lost, feel questions, keep them coming. We do this every week-ish to the best of our ability. Joined with Kevin Petersen, a.k.a. the Family Whisperer. How are you doing, Kevin?
Good, baby. I'm back. I'm here. I am great. How are you, Jay?
I mean, I guess I'm all right. I haven't really, so morning meditation went well, but anyway, it's life, man. It has an opportunity to beat you down or lift you up, whichever one you choose, I guess. So
do we need to talk about it, Jay?
What? No.
Does today's interview talk need to be about how Jay's doing and what's going on?
Oh my God. It would be a full-time show. So, but it would be boring to most because I'll just complain about petty, problems. Anyway, keep sending your questions in. We'll answer to the best of our ability. Our goal is to stump Kevin, and we'll get right into it. So we have a question, Kevin.
I'm listening.
Someone ate chips before the meeting.
Did they?
Anyway, so it's always to Kevin. So there's another thing. I put that resentment. Anyway, so she uses the word codependency. Maybe she's like, whether I know it or not, what it means or not. But the question is, we've had a difficult family. Husband and I broke up many, many years ago when the kids were young. My oldest daughter has never really forgiven either one of us. Younger brother is currently dealing with addiction. And any real time we have a family talk about getting our son help, who's 19, it's our daughter who jumps in and sabotages everything, saying that we don't really truly love him. List goes on and on and on. So the question is guilt or codependency real within siblings, and is not just with parents?
Oh boy. Yeah, it's absolutely real. I mean, it's I think what ends up happening, we play different roles in our family system, especially when addiction is involved, so there's the hero, the scapegoat, there's the, sort of the caretaker, the enabler. And then I would throw one in there that there's the person that we call like the flag waver, or like, the town crier, the person that's standing out in the middle of the road screaming like, hey, over here, and we all take turns at playing those roles. And a lot of times when, and by the way, we can play more than one role at once, so the daughter, who did you say younger?
Older
is probably in a mixed environment where she wants to help her brother and she's mad at her parents for not doing it. She's probably also got some emotions around the fact that he gets a ton of attention and she doesn't. And so it's like, you're not, mom and dad, you're not doing it right. And then there's probably also, and I think this is really important because this happens in every family I work with, there's an internal piece for the family members, like, I'm betraying my friend. I'm selling out my loved one. And it's like, no, you're not. You're saving their life. And it's okay. I don't know if you ever remember, there was this old, public service announcement by the Partnership for Drug-Free America, where they would say, there's these parents and they're like, it's okay to be a hypocrite. Just because you drank and did drugs doesn't mean it's okay for your kids to do that. You learned and you did, now you don't. So you need to step in. So So I'm guessing. I mean, I think that's what's going on with the daughter, the sister, is that she's kind of got some mixed feelings. I mean, I know my sister was kind of like, I don't know what to do here. I love him. He's great. And the other thing too, Jay, is that you know this is that we go through periods, right? There are times when it looks like I've got it all together. You know, drinking's fine. I don't got a problem. And then a week later, I'm like, the bombs go off, and so I think it's hard for family members. I think it's hard for siblings because they want to help, but they don't want to betray, and they don't know how to do it, and so that's where you and I come. And the answer to this person, to this family, is read my book. And I'm going to start getting more and more forceful in these questions. And I want to be clear. It's freaking $10 on Amazon. And I'll tell you what, if you can't afford the $10, you email Jay and I'll send you the damn PDF copy. I have no problem with that. But you have to, if someone said, if your car started acting weird and someone said, oh, go to the manual and it'll tell you how to fix the car. And you're like, I'll wait till it starts acting up again. Your car is going to break down and blow up. I have a manual. We have a manual. We're here to help you, but you got to do the work. And so that's the answer.
Well, it's true. I emailed Kevin. He sent me a PDF of it. So, and then I just copy and paste it and then just, claim me as the author. So, no, just kidding. No, this, all I'm thinking about is this kind of I think we're coming off this phase in addiction where interventions were so kind of, whatever the word being, and these interventions would swoop into town, get them to say yes, take them to treatment, and then the family would just still be stuck with the same old issues and so forth. And so, it's not a bad thing, and it's not saying right or wrong or indifferent, but I think that this right here says, like, I think first part of this would be, let's sit down as a family, maybe not even with the brother, involved, and get everyone on the same page, because it doesn't even seem like, but it begs the question, which we get all the time, is, and you can clarify it, is, that difference. I heard you guys say helping, and I heard you say enabling, and what really is truly the difference between helping and enabling?
Sure. Great question. So there's a lot of answers, and the one I like the best is, I know, right? I always look at it as a scale, right? Like a thing that goes like this. I forgot what the hell it's called. In the middle is, enabling's over here, helping's over here. And we want to be right in that middle space. And so here's my answer. Someone just asked me this the other day, and here's my answer. Enabling, you have to ask yourself the question, are they capable of doing this themselves? And the first thing every family says is, yeah, but they won't do it. I said, I didn't ask you that. I said, are they capable? And they said, yes. Then what you do is offer help to allow them to get that accomplished. And by help, I don't mean you're going to write their paper for them and turn in their homework for them. I mean, I need to find a therapist. Oh, okay, cool. Let me ask around. I need to find a treatment center. Great. Let me talk to Kevin and Jay. Let me point, and I'll get some suggestions for you. So that's over here. That's over here. Helpful. That's you saying, hey, Kevin, I'm moving to Nashville. Do you know anybody that lives here in the recovery world? Yeah, totally. Call this guy, and that's helpful because, and here's the other phrase that I love. My wife was like, God, this is like we should tattoo this on you. It's help when I ask for it. It's enabling when you just take it upon yourself to solve a problem for me. And that's really critical. It's really key. It's help.
Sure.
I know, right? Yeah. I've got a bunch of them. I got a bunch of stuff like that, Oh, we got some people commenting.
Little do you know, is I write down all these sayings, and like, I don't let you see it, but I have this thriving
merch
t-shirt shop that I claim is all my own. There's
Cool.
there was another thing within this email that I'm going to turn into a question, because I think it's, just in the last month, if I'm dealing with or talking with families, is I'll pose it like this: is why do you think, Kevin, that fear kind of drive families to do things that actually may make the addiction worse? I'll say.
Sure. So that's great. That's a great question. And a couple of things that come to mind is one, they're terrified. They're terrified. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they're terrified this person's going to die, right? So they think they have to step in and stop that. And the problem is, if you keep rescuing them, and I'm not saying you should let them die, but if you keep rescuing them, they're never going to learn how to solve their own problem. And they're also going to learn, oh, I don't have to because you will. And ultimately it's like, God, nobody thinks I'm capable of doing anything around here. That's why they keep jumping in and taking care of me. That's number one. Number two is, and I can tell you from the experience of 34 years of working with these families and seeing what it's like, is that in that family system, there is a history of mental illness and addiction. And that, what happens is when you have that in your family system generationally, what you learn is to, solve the problem and fix the problem, because you don't want to deal with the trauma. Codependency comes from your own internal trauma. We react like that because of things that happened to us in the past, and we're trying to avoid that happening again. And so that's what
Do you
it's all
think that
about.
that's why most families, I'll just say, that call me, is they feel responsible for their loved one's addiction? Do you think that's kind of the root of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course they do. Of course they feel responsible, which is a little, I mean, there's layers of depth that
Yeah.
we can go into here, but it's a little arrogant to think that you somehow caused the addiction, therefore you can somehow solve the addiction. And what I always tell people, write this one down, this is a great one, is you're not responsible for their addiction, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. And that is the key piece. You are responsible for how you respond to their addiction. And so, why are they an addict and an alcoholic? Oh God, I don't know. It's chicken and the egg. We're not going to go down that path. But how do I deal with that? That's the question. And the most important thing you can do as the family member is to have good boundaries with love and compassion, and always offer a solution. If they don't want the solution, that's their choice.
Well, that response is everything. I mean, just hearing that statement, I mean, I latched on to how these families respond means everything, and it's not an overnight thing. So a lot of families want, be done with it, and kind of,
It's hard.
sometimes it's a long process, and sometimes you're going to keep those boundaries and the love and everything in place, and how you it's definitely all the response. I love what you just said there, because it's not responsibility for the addiction, but when I hear you say that, is like, and I can just say as a blanket statement, most families are responding incorrectly, so.
Because they don't know any better. I don't, and that's the other thing I think is really important with the family is, I don't fault them. I don't blame them. What they're doing is a natural reaction to a crisis, right? When we see crisis, we jump in and solve, and then we try to fix and nurture and take care of. But turns out that's not the right solution,
Yeah.
I
So
know that's crazy,
in a
but
sense, what you're saying is, I'll just say what came to my mind is, I'm sure there's people watching or will watch or out there in kind of the, let's just say, meditation, manifestation kind of universe, is they feel like they're failing. What would you say? I mean, when you have those calls with, the family, and they're just saying, "Oh, Kevin, I'm terrible at this," what what would you say today, or what do you say to families that think that they're failing and how do you kind of get them out of that mental hole?
Great question. And the way I answer that, and when they say, what I say, okay, so what we need to do is come up with a plan of how we're going to set some boundaries and address our loved one and say, I love you. We're not doing this anymore. And from here forward, there's no drugs, there's no alcohol. You have to start becoming self-supporting or go to school or a combination of the two. And you got to start taking care of your mental health. That's just all there is to it. And I will help you. If you need help quitting drinking and doing drugs, I will help you find that help. If you need help with school or work, I will help you find a way to get a job or go back to school. I didn't say I would do it for you, and I didn't say I would pay for it. I said I would sit down and help you. And then the mental health piece, if you need help if you're struggling with your mental health, great. Let me help you. Let me help you find resources. Let me work with you. I want to mentor you in this process, but I don't mean do it. Okay. So if we set up that system, we're offering them a solution. If they reject the solution, then we go to plan B. And plan B is, okay, now the boundaries just got tighter and harder. And, as far as we're concerned, you need to go get some treatment help, and we'll help you with that. While that's going on, because that's all one side of the coin, the other side of the coin is I am doing education on myself. I'm reading about addiction. I'm reading about recovery. I'm reading about codependency. I'm reading about trauma. I'm reading about family systems. And so I'm educating myself on what's going on, why, and how, so that I am better knowledgeable of how to deal with this stuff. And then I also suggest for the families individual therapy and probably some 12-step work too. It's not just because the system that we've had before is just focus on the addict and deal with the addict. Well, that's not working. That's why you're in my office, So let's do things differently.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, this mom and dad think that they're failing at, their loved one's addiction. And then me, an active addiction, think that I'm failing life and watching these TED Talks or these YouTube shorts about motivation and, my life is spiraling. It just seems like all I could think of was like both sides feel like they're failing. And if there's any way to get on the same page about, like, we can talk about what we did wrong, whatever it is, it's about change. If both sides change, then, but you got both sides right now in the situation thinking that they're, addicts feeling like they failed at life, family feels like they're failing at loving their loved one. So it's just interesting.
So, totally. It's absolutely the truth, which is the whole point. It's the old phrase, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. So it's not about trying harder or grabbing on harder. It's about trying an entirely different way.
So let's get this in because I think it's been a couple of weeks. I think it's interesting, and hats off to this person that just basically even said, I'll make this easy on you, Jay, so you don't feel like you need to paraphrase. My question is simple. What role does forgiveness play in when is it not appropriate when loving an addict?
Oh, okay. So from the perspective of the family member,
it seems it's a mom or dad.
Right. So here's the thing I always say is that, forgiveness is going to be a critical element of the environment when the person gets sober and starts to clean up their act and starts to, turn things around. I want to be totally clear with you that forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And I can forgive someone and be like, hey, I appreciate you making the amends or apologizing or whatever it is you did. But I'm still going to be a little cautious with you because, you burned me and I get it, but I still forgive you and I love you. And that's where we're going with this process. But, when you have an addict in the family, let's just take it for granted. This person, the only time I would even consider forgiveness is this person has gotten sober and now they're actively involved in a 12-step lifestyle. And we know eventually we're going to get to a space where they come and make amends to us. And making amends, the worst thing you can do as a family member when someone makes amends is to be like, oh, it's okay, everything's fine. It's like, no, 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 no. You need to let them know what's up. You need to let them know, hey, this was really devastating for me. This really hurt me. This really scared me, you know. And I'm glad you're who you are today, and I'm totally supportive, and keep doing it and rock on, you know. But I need to let you know, because the most important thing for addicts is to understand they don't need a blank slate. They don't need, it's all good. They need, hey, I need to let you know how this affected me, and because that makes them understand, and then they offer to make it right, and then we go forward, and that way we've evened the scales, is kind of how I would look at that.
Yeah.
So it's important in the right place and time.
You got comments that everything is perspective, change how you look at it and the results will follow. Sometimes easier said than done. Forgiveness is 100%. We're all addicts in some way or form, but I mean, in general, yeah. And I mean, we talked about this, and if I was just listening to you and I didn't know your background, you're kind of saying rules that just apply for everyday life, with or without addiction.
I mean, no comment. Yeah, of course this is good for everybody. Of course this is good for everybody.
Well, it's, and I think this is what we do it. I mean, and it's families, I'll just say there's a lot of fear in change, and there's a lot of unknown in change, and families don't necessarily know anything different, and they're trying to do the best they can with no instruction manual, like you're saying. So this is what we're kind of do is, I hope, and it feels like we're kind of normalizing these thoughts and questions because a lot of people are having them. I know I did as someone in active addiction, and someone that's, that has gone through both sides of the amends process. And I always love pointing out, we're not apologizing. We're making amends, that we're going to change how we show up differently. And, and then I also say, when I hear fail, that I gotta be perfect all the time. There's going to be some missteps along the way. And I think families need to know that, like, they don't need to be perfect. And, one bad decision doesn't mean that they're failing in general. So anyway, maybe it's the perfectionist in me, but when I hear the word fail, like, if I strike out once, I'm never going up to the plate again. So,
well, right. And I think we want to create an environment where people feel comfortable trying again. And that's where the family member, the important thing is to be like, hey, it's okay. Let me support you. Let me help you. Let me walk you through the process. Let me show you how this is done, so.
Alrighty, sir. You can clock out for the rest of the day. I think you did your job.
Gracias, amigo. I'm back to Florida next week. This will be my last week in Colorado, and then I start bouncing. So next week, it'll be a Florida day.
You're always bouncing in my mind. You're just bouncing.
Yeah.
PTSD. There's a question that came in. What is it called, PTSD? But anyway, I'll see you.
We'll talk about that later.